In today's video, I'm going to be explaining exactly how I hit nearly a 400k month with my existing clients using our own creatives. And I'm also going to be touching about why you're not currently hitting these months as a brand or as a service-based agency to sort of get you to understand the creative process and the brain of how Meta likes to function when it comes to the creative aspect. You can see on screen now, we actually do have dashboards to explain and sort of go through even the ROAS trend over the last month to sort of show you that we've had spikes and declines over the long run. Now, this is very, very normal over an account, especially since I'm adding up multiple accounts, running multiple different creatives with our own clients. As you can see, we were able to maintain a decently good CTR across all accounts. This is very ideal. Now, when you want to be, making these creatives, you're looking at the average CTR. CTR sort of tells you exactly what needs to be outlined when it comes to your creative headline. Now, I'm going to go over the false assumption to why you might think your account is doing bad, but the actual reality is very different. We will first of all start with offer. Now, the main reason that people will guide the offer or the product itself as the actual reasoning for an account failing is you might think you don't have the correct product, you think that the product is bad, and you think that maybe your course or maybe even something that you're selling to your customer base as a service, including lead generation business as well, you think that it might be an offer issue. Maybe it's too expensive, maybe no one wants to buy it because it doesn't look good, right? You might think that's your issue, but it's really not. I'm telling you, I have worked with products out there that you would not think would get a sale, and they hit 7-figure overall as a brand itself. Products you would never think would ever hit that margin, hit it just because they had the correct system and pipeline to be able to attract customers and actually bring in an audience. Then, the other false assumption is budget. So when it comes to budget, people are like, oh, spending too low, you're gonna get shit results, and that's not that's the opposite on how Meta works. I don't know who made up this myth. It's a complete bullshit myth. If you're spending low budget and your ads are doing terrible, that signals that you're not good at what you're doing and your creatives are ass, because lower budgets actually make it easier to scale because it allows Meta to track in the correct ICP without going too far out, and that means that it's able to track the correct audience and the ones that want to buy in straight away. Now, when you have a huge budget, that might decline because of the fact that you have a bigger pool of audiences, meaning the ICP won't be direct. So stop thinking that it's a budget issue because it's really not. And then lastly, a targeting issue. You might think that you're targeting the incorrect ICP, but I'm telling you, it's because of the creative. It's not because of what your product is targeting based on what Meta thinks. Meta always targets the correct audience. Meta doesn't fuck up, okay? Meta knows what it's doing. Meta knows who to target. It's your creative that's cooking the audience and the targeting itself. I even have a prompt here, and as you can see, this sort of just baselines everything for me that I've just explained. I use sort of a Claude layout for this. Most people spend months tweaking all of these three: a new offer, more budget, tighter audience. The numbers still don't hold because none of these are actually what's breaking your scale. This pretty much just summarizes everything I've just went through of why you might think that you are failing as a business when it comes to running ads, but why it's actually not the real problem. So here's your actual culprit. Let's go back to basics. Let's go step by step on how you launch an ad to actually get it into an ad account. So of course, you start with actually launching the ad creative in the account, okay? You're going to get your creatives, as you can see the examples here, and then you'll launch them. Then step 2, get us in. Then, of course, what does Meta like to do? Start spending the money on these creatives. Boom. Okay, let it start spending. Maybe it performs well. That's good, right? You let it sit, you let it do its thing. 2 weeks later, ad fatigue settles in. This is where your creative pipeline starts falling apart, right? You think you've hit a record month, you think you've hit a record week, right? Because it could even be up to a week that these fatigue, because of course if you're a high spend, they'll fatigue faster. So you're a week in, okay? You're getting these insane results out of this creative. Fatigue starts to settle in. This is the worst part of your creative pipeline. The ROAS starts to tank. That's normal, right? If fatigue is hit, your ROAS doesn't stay at that mark that it originally was when you weren't fatiguing. Then what happens next? Your spend gets pulled. Of course, because if your ROAS is tanking, Meta's going to be like, okay, this creative is not performing. I'm not going to spend as much money on it. So spend starts going down, okay? Then the algorithm loses momentum, right? You just added creative in your ad account that's still actively running, it's fatigued and it's now tanking, the spend gets pulled, and the algorithm doesn't know if it should even touch this creative anymore, which then your scale fully collapses. You've just broken down your whole system based on this one creative that was carrying your ad account throughout the whole week or month that it was running, right? And this is exactly what this summarizes. This is the part that nobody talks about. Your ads don't just stop working, they die on a timeline. And when they do, everything downstream breaks with them. Your ROAS, your spend, your algorithm momentum, it all collapses from one root cause. Not your budget, not your offer, the creative pipeline that was never built to sustain it, okay? That just tells you that you can't just launch a creative, praise it works, and then let that sit in your ad account thinking that that's the best way to approach your actual performance and pipeline. Now, I think this is what everyone does, and this is the biggest problem. You want to stop doing this. The next point that I'm going to give is actually the wrong response to this, okay? What you don't want to be doing once this has happened to your ad account. Okay, let's say your scale has just collapsed. You know that your ad account's gone to shit because your ad has fatigued and now you want to launch new things. So what is your first mental thought once this has happened? Of course, you think the best new thing to do is test 2 to 3 new creatives by adding them to the ad account, okay? As you can see, these 2 examples. That's a short-term patch. It's not a pipeline because launching 2 to 3 creatives doesn't actually do anything to the ad account. It could go bad. It could not even reach fatigue because your ad had to be turned off beforehand, okay? You could be launching 2 to 3 new creatives, praying that those ones work and they end up not working. So what pipeline are you actively running to fix this? There is none. Your backend is screwed because of this exact issue. And then boom, it just becomes a loop of 0x ROAS, high frequency, low spend. 0x ROAS, high frequency, low spend. It just becomes a rewind and a loop of just consistently getting these creatives launched, letting them fatigue fast, and then just going to shit. So you need to understand that there is a better pipeline to actually fix this issue. You don't want to be actively getting 0 ROAS, do you? You don't want to be actively on low spend because that ad never ends up doing well, so it stops spending as a whole, okay? Even worse, you don't want to see the ad spending and then the ROAS tanking. Okay, you're wasting money, you're wasting time, you're trying to run ads on Meta, hoping that these creatives that you've just launched will end up doing something, but they won't. It's not what you want to be doing. The natural reaction is to test a couple of new creatives, maybe 3, it buys you a week, or maybe 2. Then the exact same thing happens again. This isn't bad luck. This is what happens when you treat a systems problem with one-off fix. It's a volume game, okay? And I'm going to explain this within the next point. The actual volume gap. Be specific on numbers that you test per week is very, very important. You do not want to be going into an ad account spending $300 a day testing 2 to 3 creatives. That is definitely how you will reach fatigue and end up having no creatives that perform well. And of course, this is the biggest issue with all these brands and all these other lead generation agencies, etc., that want to bring in new customers. With the update to Andromeda, they start putting in low volume creatives. It's not going to end up giving you any fucking results whatsoever, okay? So you want to be testing a specific number of creatives per week to actually fix this in-house problem. This is a quick example of 2 ad accounts. This is on a very low volume. As you can see, there's only a few active ads in this whole thing. Okay, as you can see, of course, because of that issue, a lot of them are getting spent, which means 0 ROAS. The ones that get spent, this one did decent. The one that got another high spend ended up tanking. But you do not want this. This is the definition of no testing. And this is the definition of testing non-stop formats and testing back-to-back creatives, okay? You can see huge runtime on here, but ROAS is kept very high. As you can see, spend is kept very high. And then, of course, your results, purchases, and everything along that comes through. And as you can see, this active status shows a lot of different ads. Now, if I scroll down, I'm sure there could be even more than this. It's literally just because your specific amount of creatives that you should be testing a week is based on your spend. And this is exactly what I'm going to summarize. There is a specific number of creatives your account needs to test every single week just to stay competitive, not to scale, just to stay flat. Most accounts we audit are running at a fraction of it. That gap is silent. You won't see it on the dashboard, but you'll feel it every time the momentum stalls. Every single ad account that I've opened has always had a volume issue, and that's why when we come in to actually help that client, we end up fixing that volume issue and stop producing ads that have proven strategies, of course, as we take experience from our other previous clients to apply onto theirs. But not only that, we actually have a team to be able to put with the volume that you guys on your own wouldn't be able to do as a brand, even if you had 1 or 2 in-house creatives. Imagine having a team of our 10 people on our agency that's not only tracking the creatives and making them for you, but actually building the strategy so that you know exactly what's going to do well and how the volume should be perceived. Then of course, the last point is the reality, okay? You're not just having a bad month, it's your creative pipeline that's broken. It's not a bad month, it's not a bad week, it's not a bad 2 months. Maybe you've had even a bad quarter of a year, okay? It's not because of your in-house problems that you might think it is. It's because of how your creative pipeline is perceived across Meta, letting you not be able to get good results within your ad accounts. Every account holding scale at this level has one thing that most don't, and this is exactly what I'm trying to perceive. All these big brands have this issue solved, and all the brands that we're working with have this issue solved to be able to scale their accounts to these big numbers without having to reach fatigue and without having ad creatives that don't perform. Most people never figure it out what that is. So the cycle just keeps repeating. It's just a consistent loop of you struggling to figure out what the main issue is when it's actually right in front of your eyes. The accounts that do figure out don't have bigger budgets, they just never run dry. Remember this, as I just said, it's not about a budget game, it's about your creative game. And if you fix your creative game, you'll be able to put up with these other big brands that are doing these insane numbers and the brands that we're working with, just so that you know your pipeline is what needs to be fixed throughout this sole purpose. So now that we're here, now that we've explained the issue and we've realized exactly what's going on with the actual ad account, I want you to open up the bio and book in a calendar link just so that I can show you exactly what I mean by the volume game. I want to also explicitly show you things like exactly what these short-term patches may be and how to turn them into long-term patches so that you don't have this spend ROAS frequency issue recurring into your account without actually getting good volume and good results throughout your actual ad account. Once you book in that link, you will have a direct meeting with me, and I'm going to look into your ad account throughout that meeting itself just so that I understand exactly what we can do to apply exactly what we've done to reach this number just last month alone, and hopefully get you in the same leagues or even higher than the actual clients that we're currently working with. I've hoped you've taken something away from this video, and I know that this will help somebody out there. So just hit me up and we'll go from there.